Oh boy. Where's G.I. Robot when you really need him? Peacemaker, episode 6? 6. Yes, I remembered. Um, I'm a little mixed on this, but again, a lot of that has to do with sort of my hangups and certain things from my angle. There's some good stuff in here, though. Maybe I should get my hangups out of the way. There's a fair bit of cringe in this again. Mostly having to do with Harcourt having to pretend to be the other Harcourt, and there's just all of that. All of that was real difficult for me to get through. Honestly, the vigilante stuff was a little rough for me up until he met himself. Then, I actually really liked how that went, and I had kind of figured that this universe's version of vigilante was against Peacemaker because, as I'd mentioned, I think last episode, thanks to people pointing it out, I did, or maybe it was 2 episodes ago, I did catch on to the lack of people of color in this, and I was like, yeah, I bet you he's on the other side of this particular conflict. Of course, seeing just the instant Adebayo said, I'm gonna take a walk, I'm like, oh god. So some of the stuff that was the cringe is just rough for me. It just is. Apologies for my voice, by the way. I have a cold, so I don't know. Is this doing it for you? When it gets this deep, maybe you just learn something about yourself. You're welcome. Yeah. Shouldn't have done that. Granted, I didn't catch on to it in the first episode we had set in this universe. And, fair enough. But I do think that stretching out that reveal for as long as they did kind of, it brushes up against the way it's delivered here, the confirmation. Because I think by this point, most people, especially if they engage in online fandom at all, either noticed themselves or saw the conversation. So just the amount of time between when this universe was introduced, how many times we've gone back to be able to confirm, yeah, no, definitely not any, and then to the reveal and to treat it like this big, oh, can you believe it? Yeah, kind of been waiting for you to drop that. I do like the detail that Harcourt is noticing off the bat, but obviously Chris hasn't. I really hope that leads to some serious introspection on the part of Chris. The fact that he didn't notice that. I don't want that to be thrown away for a one-off sort of, quick gag or snark line about how, I was raised by a white supremacist. I've still got blinders on some things, which would be true. It'd be accurate. But I really want the show to hold Chris accountable to the fact that he kept going back. Again, if it was one trip there, okay, maybe you're overwhelmed by everything, but he kept going back and didn't notice. And I'm not saying that makes him a bad person necessarily, but it does mean he's still got a lot of stuff he needs to work on, and I really want the show to properly grapple with it and not just give it a token acknowledgement and then move on. So that's kind of my hope there. I'll give it this. That given that it was basically a reveal that I'd already been waiting on, it still caught me off guard for how hard they went on it. When he went to the American flag to look at it, my first thought was, oh, is there gonna be something about it that makes it clear that, I don't know, the North lost the Civil War or something? Oh no, it's worse. It's so much worse. That did catch me off guard. So I guess that I'm not sure that fully balances, but it does take the curse off it a little for how long they drew out this reveal. by going that hard, going way harder than I expected. Although in hindsight, given, again, a character like G.I. Robot in Creature Commandos, maybe I should have seen that coming. I'm kind of glad I didn't, though. Like, that was sort of the major aspect of this that I was like, oh, dang, okay. Okay. Now, there is a potential inherent conflict with all this. And I'm not going to make a judgment call on this yet. But here is the potential problem that James Gunn has created for himself. Which is that he has created a world that, at least as it appears right now, it makes a world in which fascist white supremacy creates a totally functioning and on the surface level appealing and pleasant world once they were done getting rid of or isolating or whatever. The way Keith said one got out to me says she's supposed to be in a camp, but like, you know, once they got all the minorities they hate into a camp, look how nice everything was. And that's dangerous. That's dangerous because, like, the sort of recurrent thing that we've had around fascism, you know, for longer than I've been alive, is this notion of, like, I think this was said about Mussolini specifically, but this idea of, well, you know, at least the trains ran on time. This idea of, yeah, bad guy did a lot of bad stuff, but hey, and it's dangerous, and it's dangerous for the same reason that trying to note anything that Hitler did. God, is this video gonna get shadow banned now because I said that name? Screw you, YouTube. Pointing out that anything that Hitler did had some kind of overall positive impact. While I'm not going to argue the factual merits on that, I am going to say that pointing that out in and of itself is dangerous because that is the short end of the wedge. It is this notion that, okay, but was right about some things, and I'm sorry, but right about some things is a first step on a path that leads to maybe right about some of that other stuff too. Will everybody walk that path? No, but maybe don't lay out the first stone, and fewer people will walk that path. So, how? Again, I think this is a problem, and I'm not going to say definitively yet, because I'm hoping we're going to somehow learn a little bit more about this world, and like that it's not as functional as it appears, and not just for the fact that it's clearly done horrible stuff to every person of color. I'm assuming that's where we'll pick up with Judo Master eventually. But I really wanted to show that this world, even setting that aside, is not actually as functional as it appears. That it is way more oppressive. It is way more broken. It doesn't actually work. It just forces people to play act that it's working. I kind of need it to do something like that, because if it doesn't, and we'll see, there's 2 episodes left to go, if it fails to do that, then what James Gunn has done has presented a world where if you don't mind the horrifying acts of racist violence that this world has committed, it's a nice place. And that's, like, especially right now, I don't love that, because you are creating a situation where anyone who does not take white supremacy and racial isolationism as an inherent evil is going to be looking at this and go, it would work, wouldn't it? And I don't think that's a good thing to be creating a scenario for, even in fiction, especially right now. So again, I'm not making a final judgment call on that. We have a couple episodes to go. He might give me the layers I need for this to work. But right now, I am very, very nervous about that. And to be clear, if this happens, I am positive it was by accident. James Gunn has been pretty clear, and even is now, like, who the bad guys are. Like, he's been super clear about that. So if he did this, if he created a world that is fascist white supremacist and it's pretty and functional, and like the only thing that is bad about it is what has happened to minorities, and thereby he has created a world which kind of says, once we get rid of the minorities, the rest of us, it will be great. I'm sure that if that is what he did not do that on purpose, and it was a lack of fully thinking through all the implications of what he did. Again, though, I'm not saying that has happened yet, but I just want to be clear, I am not accusing James Gunn of being racist or white supremacist. I'm incredibly confident that he's not. No matter what your intentions, dabbling in this stuff at all is tricky. It is a tightrope walk, because if you go about it the wrong way, and it's very easy to stumble into the wrong way if you are, you're focused on, say, the storytelling possibilities or what have you, that you're not thinking about the implications of everything else, it is very easy to stumble ass backwards into some really awful messaging that you didn't intend. Like, I run into that all the frickin' time when it comes to trans representation written by cisgender people. Like, so often they mean well, but because they have not fully thought through the implications of what it is they're depicting, they accidentally do imply, suggest, or otherwise deliver a message that is not great and possibly horrifying. Not meaning to, but it still happens. So we'll see. We'll see. On all that. I went longer on that than I had intended to, but like it is the big overriding potential problem. And again, I'm not making the definitive call that this is that. But I need James Gunn to do something to affirm that it isn't that. Because, like, it's not even just a matter of implying that a white supremacist fascist society would be actually super great for anyone who meets the white standards. It is really important that it needs to be understood, fascist societies don't work. Like, they are self-destructive by nature. The consolidation of power based on the idea of more narrowly defining who is acceptable, as they continue to do over time. And there are studies on this. If fascists get what they claim to want, if white supremacists get what they claim to want, and they get rid of all the dark-skinned and brown people, they don't stop trying to restrict and strip away rights. They keep doing it, and they start doing it to each other. There is research on this. So it is not only important in terms of messaging to not depict a fascist white supremacy society as functional because it's a bad message, but because it's also wrong. It's untrue, and it's part of the propaganda that fascists tell about themselves. When people have this vision of Germany in World War II and the lead up to it as this really well-oiled military machine and so powerful, and look at all the strength they have, that's their propaganda. That is the myth that they said about themselves. And like, were they a massive threat? Absolutely. But a big part of why it became as bad as it was is because nobody was paying attention as they built it up. It's not because their ideology was in any way uniquely suited to being, stronger, more powerful and all that. It's not. It's actually not. But when we do these things and we lean into these images of the efficiency of it, and look, they will put systems in place to, with frightening efficiently, cause atrocities. But the idea that it is actually an efficient society that benefits those who are the ostensible beneficiaries of white supremacy is untrue. It's a lie. It is the propaganda of white supremacists that this would actually work. So, James, be real careful. And I know I'm saying that as if you haven't already written, shot, and edited the remaining 2 episodes, but yeah! Do I even have anything else to say at this point? Good reintroduction for Lex Luthor. I found myself wondering, like, who the hell's it gonna be? Especially, when before they showed his face, I'm like, who? Because I was kind of expecting a Suicide Squad member, just because that's the main connection to Belle Reve. That came to my mind. So, like, seeing him is like, oh, okay. And I like the way he handled the negotiation. Like, he is smart, but he's also very arrogant. And I am very curious because afterwards, Rick Flag Sr. says, oh, we're going to transfer him to this other prison. And that's about it. I feel like the word about in that's about it is probably doing some heavy lifting. What else did he get? I don't know. Will we find out in this show, or will it be a follow-up in a Justice League or the next Superman or whatever? Who knows? But I'll be curious. I will be curious to find that out. I also really like Lex's very dismissive attitude of Peacemaker. It's like, is that a metahuman? No, it's a costume vigilante. Then what do I care? Like, being a silly goofball in a mask is not a concern to me. I like that. I like the real narrowing down of his focus and where his anger, his ire is directed. So that was good. I didn't need the gay sex joke. I'm not going to definitively say that it was a sexual assault joke, but the fact that it's happening in a prison kind of innately implies that it is, just because of the connotations of a lot of sexual activity in prisons. So since we did not see and have not encountered either of the characters implied, one of them being Killer Croc, I'm not sure who the other one was implied to be, but since we aren't really seeing them at all, we don't know. We have no counter to the notion that it is a case of Croc forcing himself onto somebody else. So that's kind of implied just by the setting, unless you do something to counter it, and you didn't. So didn't super love that. Now, is Lex the kind of guy to make light and kind of turn that into a joke? Sure, absolutely. Would it have been worse if a character we are meant to like had made that joke? Definitely. Was I comfortable with it being made? Not especially. Not really. Like, it's just kind of a cliche. Like, I think that is a case of James Gunn's old instincts as a little bit more of an edgelord and a person into shock humor. I feel like that was a moment of those old instincts leaking in. Not the worst instance of it in the world, but that feels like you, like 20 plus, like 25 plus years ago, dude. Like, that's get over it. I guess that's about it. Oh, I love Adrian's mom. I think she's amazing. And I actually really like, because at first you're like, the contrast of her as a mother and him as a son, that's the initial joke. But what I really liked is the more she talked, the more I realized, oh, they're actually quite a bit alike. Like, Adrian's more aggressive than she is, but she has that similar, is just going to keep talking and has no real good gauge on the impacts of social interactions and what is or isn't acceptable. She has that too, in a much more kind of adorable way than Adrian has it, but it's like, oh, yeah, okay, that actually kind of makes sense. And I like Vigilante was a character who I already liked in the first season. I'm liking him even more this season because, like, the fact that he just has a basement full of drugs and cash, and he's just storing it there because he doesn't trust that there's anyone he can turn it into where they won't just pocket it. And then, of course, his friends just start pocketing money, which, no judgment, I would too. But yeah, that was good stuff. I'm glad I found a couple of good things to focus on, because I'm not going to say the episode is bad. I think that's an overstatement. I am going to say the episode's on probation, pending more information about this world and something to counter the notion that it quote unquote works. we got it. We got to nip that in the bud. Ideally, next episode. So we'll see. Peacemaker, episode 6. What'd you think of this one? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon pays the bills and enables me to do this as my living. Even if you can't help me out that way, like, share, subscribe. Those all help. Don't worry too much about it. We take a relaxed attitude around here. So just come on back next time you need a break. I need to go on vocal rest. And now to thank my highest supporting patrons. Robin Moore, Jared Boyce, Zubin Lafula, Monty Kate 808, Mira G, Angry Casperl, Dave Hall, Movie Turtle, Oliver B, Sean Miller, Welsh Wrestling Geeks, Alyssa Pedersen, Mary Mello, Becky Sparks, Loki Eris, Tracy Scrabbit, Pau Barabajoggle, and Sir Didymus is my favorite, as well as Welsh Wrestling Geeks. So, folks said they wanted the rats back. Here they are. I really should have not worn something that exposed this much skin. Their nails are sharp. Ow. Oh, you guys. Get back here. Butthead.